Taoiseach, I want to talk to you about a 4-year-old boy from Dundalk, a wee lad called Billy. And Billy was born profoundly deaf. And he was 2.5 years old before he was given a cochlear implant. And his mother tells how the first time he could hear noise, how he cried, and how that was a hugely emotional time for the family. And it is a very good example of how technology can improve lives. The problem, Taoiseach, is that Billy had to wait until he was 2.5 because of funding issues, and that there are still inadequate funding for children in this state who receive only one implant. Now, the cost of a single implant is between 18,000 and 20,000, and internationally it's considered best practice to implant both ears. And the HSE, I think, accepts this also, because provision of only one implant impairs a child's ability to distinguish where noises are coming from, limits their ability to hear in noisy places like classrooms or the Dáil chamber. And the big problem is as the child grows that the nerves to which the implant should be connected die, that they're not being used. So the hope of a fuller implant is lost. So, Taoiseach, these children are in a race against time. This is a hugely important treatment for them and for other children who are born deaf. The cost isn't prohibitive, and I would ask you if you could consult with the Minister for Health and the Cabinet Committee on Health and secure agreement that the funding resources will be released to allow for bilateral cochlear implants for all the children affected.
Thank you, Deputy Taoiseach.
Well, Deputy Adams, this is obviously a most frustrating situation for parents, or indeed for adults, and particularly for children who require cochlear implants. I hope that little Billy will be able to have his particular problem resolved in due course. Deputy Adams is aware that there are about 700 involved here every year, and I think it's about 200 children. The average cost of the cochlear implant, of a single implant, is between 18,000 and 20,000. Now, clearly in the UK, a decision was made to have bilateral implants given for children who need it, or indeed for adults. I understand that where surgical requirements are involved here for children under 6, that's done in the Children's Hospital in Temple Street. I don't know the details of little Billy's particular case, but in a number of these cases, some do not proceed to have a second implant provided because of whatever particular circumstances it might be. I have to say to you that Beaumont is the hospital that deals with this in the main, and they've put forward their business proposal in regard to bilateral cochlear implants. There is a budget of 4.1 million available this year for cochlear implants, and last year I think it was 42 children and 48 adults who were treated. 48 adults and 42 children treated last year. Now, I've spoken to Minister Riley about this. Obviously, the Minister will consider the business proposal put forward by Beaumont to the HSE in the hope that these particular cases can be dealt with efficiently and speedily. I understand, Deputy, that the adults referred are seen within 6 to 9 months. Depending on the multidisciplinary team assessment for children, they normally receive their implant within 6 to 7 months. I'll have the Minister examine the business proposition put forward by Beaumont, and as I said, I don't know little Billy's particular case, but obviously the multidisciplinary team assessment will determine whether he's a suitable child for a bilateral cochlear implant.
Thank you. Deputy Adams.
Well, thank you, Taoiseach, for that answer, and I used Billy's case only to personalise and humanise the issue. He did receive one cochlear implant, but the point I'm trying to make is that the doctor's best practice and even the HSE are saying that the 2 implants for children is the best way to go forward. And the cost is estimated by the HSE as being no more than 4 million. So this isn't an awful lot of money even in these straitened times. Some of these children aren't even diagnosed as being deaf until they're 18 months or so. And if you can imagine a child like Billy hearing no noise at all until he's 2.5. Now, as a citizen, he has a right to hear, a right to have a voice, a right to be heard. And the government has a solution. It's quite simple, and I know you can't stand up here on the hoof and give commitments on these matters, but it's quite simple. It's 4 million. It will cure this problem for all of these young citizens. And I would just beseech, on behalf of the parents particularly who are running a campaign in this issue, that the Minister for Health and yourself would come to this in a very, very positive way. This is something the government could put right very, very easily.
Thank you. Taoiseach.
Yeah, there will be a positive approach taken towards it, Deputy Adams. Let me tell you, since this programme began 17 years ago, I can quote it, 700 patients have received cochlear implants. 90 were carried out in 2012, as I said, 48 adults, 42 children. Now, you are correct in that in 2009, the UK's National Institute for Health and Clinical Excellence recommended bilateral cochlear implantation as best practice for children. At present in Ireland, it's a single implantation that takes place, except in a very small number of cases where children might have been the victims of meningitis or blindness. Now, I can tell you that the Beaumont Hospital and HSE management have already met to discuss the proposition put forward by Beaumont here. And the purpose of that meeting, and others to follow, Deputy Adams, is to identify the options for developing bilateral implementation processes for children into the future. And obviously an important element of that would be the development of very clear clinical criteria to prioritise the cases that should be dealt with. So I'm glad you raised the issue. It is very important for parents and more particularly for children. And as I said, the process is underway. There is a 4.1 million allocation this year, and Minister Riley will follow through with the HSE and Beaumont management in respect of developing that process and putting in place clear criteria to see whether we should follow the decision taken by the UK's National Institute in 2009 for bilateral cochlear implants. So you'll be kept informed as progress is made.